Well, thanks for having me back again. Thank you, Zenaido, wherever you ran off to. There he is. Thank you, Tori. I appreciate being back here. When I came here last year, I told you all that I wanted my first official visit as the new executive director for the Secular Coalition for America to be somewhere where I could meet with people who were doing work every single day on the ground. And that was here in Arizona. And I was really glad that I could be here. I also told you that the Secular Coalition for Arizona is essentially the flagship model for how we need to be working with state government. And I stand by that, by the way. I shared with you that the Big Mac wasn't created at McDonald's headquarters. Do you remember that? And the reason I shared that the Big Mac wasn't created at national headquarters is simply to say that some of the best and brightest ideas don't come from corporate management in their national headquarters. They come from the field. And I learned a lot from the Secular Coalition for Arizona over the last year, working with Amanda. Hi, Amanda. It's good to see you. Working with Tori, working with Zenaido, and working with so many of you. I'm in awe of everything that you've accomplished, not just here in Phoenix, but around the state, and I could not be prouder to be your partner. In fact, just to underline that point, last year when we did our annual advocacy day in Washington, D.C. last June, we did it in conjunction with the Reason Rally. We knew it was going to be the largest event we ever held. We had over 300 people show up. Those 300 people either met with or distributed information to every single lawmaker in Washington, D.C. It was a big deal. And when it came time for me to put together the lobby day training, who did I call? I called your Tori, and I asked Tori to come to Washington, D.C. to do the training. And she did a great job. I'm not going to say that this past year's been easy. If I did that, I'd lie. This has been a tough year. It's been a really tough year. It's been a year of learning for me. It's been a year of great transition for the Secular Coalition for America. We've taken great efforts to put a new strategic plan in place that puts us on the right path for financial stability, corporate transparency, new governance, and greater engagement with our member organizations. And Roy and Maggie are right here. They're, one of our greatest member organizations. We've repackaged our messaging to talk about values that we cherish, values like freedom, inclusion, equality, knowledge. Those were values I started to talk about last February when I joined you right here on this very lawn. And it's important that we talk about our messaging from a values standpoint. And I want to tell you why. It's important because secular values are American values. I always knew that we were on the right side of the debate. I always knew that the religious rights message was one of exclusion and intolerance. However, I thought that we had a lot of work doing to get the American people to recognize this. But in my travels across the country this past year, I saw a hunger for our work that I never anticipated. I've noticed this particularly in the southern and midwestern states, where people are fed up with a political culture that presupposes religion must play a part in shaping policy. We saw this at our secular caucus at the Texas Democratic Convention, where hundreds of attendees filled a venue to standing room only capacity. It was the first time we ever hosted a secular caucus at a major political party at the state level. Texas, of all places, Texas. Now you'll remember Sarah, who was with me last year. For whatever reason, I approved her to go on vacation. She's in Colombia having the time of her life. She sent me a picture this morning of her with a backpack, little hat on, she's going hiking. And I'm jealous, because she's not with me here. But, you know, I said to Sarah when I went to San Antonio for the Texas Democratic Party, I said, Sarah, if you made me fly all the way here for 4 people, I'm going to be really upset. We had 400 people. It was among the largest caucuses that was attended at the Texas Democratic Party. It was unbelievable. Now, granted, 10% of the people walked in because they wanted to know what the heck a secular caucus was. 90% walked in because they were angry in terms of what was happening in Austin and throughout the state of Texas. They were angry, they were fed up, they wanted new messaging, they wanted a new way to move forward, and that's what they got. In June, and in conjunction with Roy, we had 140 delegates from the National Democratic Convention. Delegates reach out to us to proclaim that they are openly secular. This is a big deal. In Utah, this December, in Utah, the Utah Democratic Party approved the creation of the state's first secular caucus. Or my favorite, in Kentucky. Good old Kentucky, the Ark Encounter. Y'all know about the Ark Encounter? It is a sight to be seen, I'll tell you that much. But when secular activists came across the country to call out a clear violation of the separation of church and state, I was amazed. I wasn't just amazed by the leadership of secular leaders across the country, I was also really amazed by the counter-protesters. And I realized at that moment, perhaps more profoundly than ever, that we're the nice people. We are the nice people. We're not calling our gay, lesbian, or trans brothers and sisters abominations. We're not shaming women for exercising their legal access to reproductive health. And we're not standing in the way of individuals with terminal illnesses to die with dignity because we have a God complex. We're fighting every day to create a more inclusive society, a society made up of laws that are based on expanding individual freedoms and individual liberties. We are fighting every day to ensure that people can practice their faith. But more importantly, we're ensuring that they cannot impose their faith on others. This is what real religious freedom looks like. In a democracy, real religious freedom means that if you're opposed to gay marriage, don't get gay married. If you're opposed to abortion, don't have one. If you're opposed to end-of-life choice, don't choose. But do not tell someone else that they cannot. It's that simple, people. Their version of religious freedom says that if you're against gay marriage, it's okay to discriminate against gay people. If you're opposed to abortion, no one should have access to reproductive health. If you're not their brand of Christian, you're not allowed. And if you're a Muslim, you're banned. Well, folks, I don't think they have a damn clue what real religious freedom looks like. And in case you might worry that this is just an optimist who lives inside a secular bubble, a poll released last week by the Public Religion Research Institute found that 64% of Americans oppose allowing religious refusal laws. 71% of Americans, including a majority of both Republicans and Democrats, oppose churches endorsing politicians while maintaining their tax status. 70% support non-discrimination laws to protect LGBT people. And 53%, despite a widespread campaign of misinformation, oppose the hateful bathroom bills that target and stigmatize the transgendered community. But this is why this year is so important. And I feel kind of foolish because last year I came here and I said, 2016 is so important, and 2016 was important. And I said in November when we elect the next president, whomever she may be, I was being optimistic. But let me say a few names. Pence, Gorsuch, DeVos, Price, Pruitt, Carson, Sessions, McConnell, Ryan, Trump. And now a few topics. The Johnson Amendment, The First Amendment Defense Act, which we all know has nothing to do with defending the First Amendment. RFRA, defunding Planned Parenthood, budget cuts against science at the EPA, the NIH, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the FDA, climate change, travel ban, aid in dying, and something you all know way too well here in Arizona, school vouchers. This is what we're up against this year. And it's hard to believe that in 2017, we must still fight so hard to defend the secular nature of our government. But we do. We had hoped to build on our victories and to expand the gains we made for civil rights and true religious freedom. Instead, we must ensure that those hard-won victories are not hollowed out by the Trump administration and his allies in the 115th Congress. We cannot count on others to fight our battles or hope that progress is simply inevitable. We have a duty to ourselves, to future generations, and to one another to stand up for what is right. What happens this year will set the tone for years to come. When the religious right and the Trump administration try to impose their unconstitutional religious privilege, we must be there to call them out and hold them accountable. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. The fight for a secular government and science-based policy may seem as uphill as ever, but the struggles we endure today will build the strength we need to win victories tomorrow. The activism we use to resist the religious right is the same activism we can use to fortify and strengthen our secular government. Our challenges are vast, but our potential is limitless. November 8th could be remembered as a victory for the religious right, or it could be remembered as the spark that started a secular and science-based revolution across the United States. Well, because of that and because of looking at all of you here today, I'm more confident than ever that it's the latter. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.